I treated a lot of people bad when I was younger. I let the power of being the vice president of AT&T get to my head. I treated people bad. One SEO, same thing. I lost my cool on people. Now that I'm a father, I'm 50. Yelling and screaming at people isn't going to get you anywhere. Yeah, I look back on it, and before I had children, like when someone got pregnant, and I'd be like, well, why ain't they back to work the next week, right? I had to like empathy. And then I see what my sister did. My sister's an animal. She came back to work the next week. And I was like, nah, man, why don't you take time? Because I'm a father now, right? Like, and I missed my regret is not spending LJ's earlier years with him, right? So like for me, I wish I'd had more understanding of
entrepreneurship, got that inspiration. Yeah, now I'm just doing it. Working on these projects, my ideas I'm pursuing. No matter what the problem, the solution, I'm proving it. Let's talk about it and open up the dialogue. Contractors telling their stories about how they got it started and how they keep it going. The passion fuels the mission. Now we blasted into orbit, we gone. That's where we grow from. Started with the vision, make the pitch and knock it out the park like home runs. We keep it moving, self-belief, no doubt. Pass off the mic to my man's Jim Klauck.
Lance Bachmann, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing, Jim? Nice to see you, brother.
Hey, it is great to see you. I am living the dream. Thank you so much. I see you're in a location now where you're living a new dream. That's not your typical office behind you. You want to talk a little bit about that before we begin?
Yeah, I'm in this is actually my office in my house right here.
Wow.
So on a farm. So this is actually, I bought a farm. They're actually gutting the whole thing. You'll laugh because that's downstairs, my living room. But this is the other part of the house. That's the other part of the original farmhouse. And then I'm actually on the farm there, having another house built. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I mean, it's almost 20 acres. It's nice not to have, like, I don't want to use the word, it's nice not to have neighbors. So we have neighbors, but it's nice just to be able to, I'll show you this real fast, Jim, because I think this is the coolest part. You know, when it's all done, you know, this deck, you'll go off it, and that's my out back.
Yeah, no, I can relate. I mean, I get it, man. Been doing it for a decade, man. Yeah.
I never thought I would like it coming from the city, and I lived in the suburbs growing up, like in townhomes and condos.
Mm-hmm.
And there's everywhere. And it's probably why I love people so much. But, you know, as you get older, you do want a little bit of time to yourself and peace. And, you know, it's nice. Like I said to you, I sat outside with my boys last night watching them throw the football and just had the fire pit on and music blasting. And, you know.
Yeah. I
just can't do that when you got a neighbor 20 feet away.
All right. So here on Contractor Stories, I like to go into a deep dive into our guests who have had a spectacular life. And your life story is a very interesting story. It's not typical of most Americans. Are you comfortable going back in time to start off when you were about 10 years old?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not ashamed of my childhood. I was a child, right? I mean, now that I'm a father, when I used to think those things were my fault, they weren't my fault. You know, I was a kid, the things that happened to me. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's more typical that children get lost in the system than people think. I think people don't want to look at it and say the system's broken and it's terrible, right? And I hate to say this, but we're worried about taking on people from other countries, but we don't worry about the children and the vets in our own backyard. And I'd say that, and I feel like that's a political statement. No, it's not a political statement. It's a fact. I was one of those children. Yeah, I mean, I was born group home, foster care system, orphanage. You know, my mom and dad. My dad, just not a good man at all. Beat my mom all the time. Alcohol, beat the kids. My mom was an alcoholic. My mom tried. Listen, the one thing I'll say about my mom kept showing back up, trying. But, you know, she had 9 kids that were maniacs, right? I mean, you know, a father that wasn't there, you know, a lot of abuse in my family, a lot of abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse. And, you know, we got so extreme in my house that literally that normal life became where we were locked in the bathroom at times. They put a steel door on the bathroom and plywood at the bathroom window. And literally we stayed there sometimes weeks on end, and they would feed us under the door. Things that wouldn't even be capable of doing today without someone going to prison. But, you know, a psychiatrist actually told my mother to do that. A psychiatrist, think about that.
What?
Yep.
Told her to lock up the children?
Yes, in the bathroom. Yep, a psychiatrist. So, I mean, my mom was also a woman that was abused by her parents.
Mm-hmm.
So abuse, normally does keep going. It's hard to break the cycle. I got brothers and sisters of mine I don't talk to because they can't break the cycle. I have brothers that passed away, OD'd. Every Bachmann boy has seen a prison cell. I mean, think about that. I mean, yeah, and I have too. I've no problem saying it to people when I was younger. I used to fight. I was angry. When I was 10 years old, I was insecure. I was already getting in trouble. When you have nothing and you come from nothing and you're low and you have the worst self-esteem, right? I always say that when people say, oh, these guys are cold or they joined the gang, in the absence of leadership and love, you're looking for it somewhere. So if negative people will show you and accept you, you'll probably become negative. Right.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I'm blessed I had my childhood. Be honest with you, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a beating. I wouldn't change the time I had to go away. I wouldn't change anything because it made me who I am today. And I just think I'm so mentally stronger than everyone else. Some of my most peaceful times, believe it or not, were when I was sitting in a room by myself.
I was just talking to someone else on a podcast about this, and that is ones who grow up in a struggle in less than reasonable circumstances and environment, they often stand out later and do extreme things for the positive. My point is when you see people who are what we would consider normal Americans, they have a mother and a father, and they grow up and they go to high school, maybe they go to college and they get a job. Those generally don't do spectacular things, but there are some people who've had a very challenging childhood who actually end up doing great things. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say this?
Yeah, I think what is, you got to pay your due to get your due. Once you see hell, everything else becomes easier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, once you see hell, I mean, I've seen things that no child should see. I've seen things as a child that no grown man should see. And, I'm fortunate. I mean, I got to go to Council Rock High School, one of the most premier high schools around, so I saw both sides of life, right? I seen hell and I saw how money lives. And I was like, I want to live like that. I think the reason why most people, once they break the chains, why they grow like this is because they understand routine, discipline. They understand sequences of events. You can't break what's been broken 1,000 times. Like there's nothing someone could do to me physically or mentally to hurt me. Only my children and my wife. Make sense? Like you could put me in a room for a month and just come in and beat the shit out of me every day. And I'm just going to be like, all right, I don't like it. But when I come out of this room, all hell's going to break loose. I mean, it's just a different mindset. Make sense?
Absolutely. It does. And so I tell people all the time, you need to have failures in your life. Now, Lance, yours are extreme, not necessarily failures, but adversity. Okay. But as the average person in this country grows up, they need to have their heart broken. They need to lose a job. They need to go broke or bankrupt, because until you hit your rock bottom, whatever that is, you generally don't appreciate everything else. And when you've hit a rock bottom, whatever yours is, because everyone else is different, you then realize that if you were able to deal with all that crap, whatever it was, most other things in life are going to be easy. So if you don't get slapped around, if you don't skin your knees, if you don't get beaten up one way or the other, you're less likely to be able to be successful at an extreme level. Like Elon Musk, we all know that he's done some great extreme things. He'll even tell you in an interview that you don't want to be me. He's got some issues, but he's done some extreme things. Steve Jobs, another great, his childhood, as far as he was concerned, wasn't that good. And actually his adulthood wasn't all that great until he got older. He treated people like crap and he just had an issue, but he was driven. So I see this over and over again. The people who graduate from college with an MBA, they tend not to do great things because I think things were cushy, right?
I think they feel entitled. Like when people say to me, oh, I got this degree. I have my degrees, right? But I cheated through college. I tell everyone that. Like, I have no problem. Like, I'm surprised. Like, my college, I didn't come back, knocked on my door, and said, "Listen, man, we know you cheated.
We want the degree back, right? Yeah.
I just think they look at it and say, "The hell was it, man? It's Lance Bachmann. He's a pretty cool dude. And he's honest about it, at least, and that's a skill set, right?" Like, I speak there and I tell the kids in school. I think when you feel entitled, there's people that you'll meet that, take a lawyer, for instance, like they're entitled. They believe sometimes, right? Because I got this degree. Or, I one time had a guy, I called him his first name. He's like, "It's doctor." And I started laughing. I said, "Get the fuck out of here. I'm not calling you doctor." He's like, "What?" He's like, "I went to med school for that." I said, "So what?" I said, "You make $500,000 a year." I said, "I make that a month." I like put him right in his place. Like, he didn't know what to say. Because if someone responds to you and says, "Doctor," what an egomaniac is that person.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it's their title and they feel they deserve that title.
But if someone calls you John and your first name is John, what's the big deal?
It's not. It all depends upon who you are and how you expect people to treat you. It's like royalty, right? I mean, if you meet King Charles, I would be careful not to call him Chuck. I'm just saying because...
we would, though, if that was his name, because he puts his pants on the same as me.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to treat me different.
He actually has people help him put his pants on, honestly. But he is truly royalty. There's a very few slice, but there are some people out there still who have people help dress them, and he's probably one of them at times. But I understand what you're saying.
I get when you meet the president of the United States, right? If I get to meet the president, I mean, not that I want to meet this one, full transparency, but if I got to meet the next one, hopefully, I'd call him Mr. President, right?
Sure.
But if he wasn't president, I'd call him Don.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like Mr. Trump. I'd be like, "Hey, Donald, like, it's just not that big of a deal. When someone calls me sir, put it this way, I coach kids all the time, and I don't even want them calling me coach. I have them call me Lance.
Yeah.
Right. I want them to have a relationship with me. And I think some people feel entitled. To get back to your question, I think people think because they go to college or they grow up a certain way, they're entitled. I do love the sport of wrestling. I say it all the time because nobody cares what color you are, what race you are. No one cares what gender you are, what money you have. When you toe the line, it's a lion versus a lion, and they don't care. And nothing else matters. I think it's the most beautiful sport in the world for that reason. In football, there's daddy ball. In soccer, there's daddy ball. And I see these dad coaches, I hate to say it, they are the problem. Kids haven't changed. Parents have changed. Parents are soft on their kids. If you yell at your kid, I'll never forget, like 3 years ago, my son punched my other son and hit him. I yelled at my son, LJ, come here now. And some woman was like, "Hey, watch how you talk to your kid." I turned around, I said, "Shut up. You raise your kid the way you want. I'm going to raise my kid the way I want. My kid's not going to punch my other kid in the face." And she was like blown away. Like, that's the problem, right? You have a kid hit another kid, and instead of confronting it, people want to just be like, "Oh, Johnny, don't do that." Well, I'm like, no, you ain't going to do that, or you're going to sit in your room.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm glad you brought up how soft we are today. And
we're not entitled to our opinions anymore, right? And that's a big issue, right? So everyone has to play along and be a politician. And so a guy said to me the other day, for example, right? "Do you believe there's only two genders?" I said, "I do." And I said, "That's just my opinion." So he said, but he said, "You employ all these people that are in transition and, they're girls, they're guys." I said, "I do." And he said, I have utmost respect for him. I promote him. I don't look at that. But you asked me my belief. And he goes, "But how can you?" I said, "Because my beliefs don't come into my workplace and how I treat people. But if someone ever was a guy and they became a girl and they tried selling me that they're a girl now, I wouldn't even have the conversation. I'd be like, there's no sense in us having this because I want to respect you too much. I'm not going to even have the conversation with you. You're a guy. But I'm not going to argue with you about it. I'm not going to, that's what you want to do. You want to do it, whatever makes you happy." So, I mean, I think we as people have come to accept everything and have to play along. But I do believe there's a class of people out here that are still core to their values. They believe in God. They believe in this, the most resilient country. And I'm proud of it. I do, Jim, from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah. And you and I spend time with people who are really hard workers and people who are achieving a lot. And anyone in this country can do that. And that's why I bring this up. Let's all do a little bit better. If everyone in this country just produced 1% more of whatever they did a day, our GDP would go like crazy, right? Because there are people who.
Yeah, but they're not going to.
So why is that, Lance? Why?
People lazy, Jim. People are entitled. Like, people want to play these games. I mean, I see grown men, 30 years old, 35 years old, playing Fortnite, Night Fork, whatever this shit called.
I know.
They're grown men. Think about it. Grown men playing Sega systems, right? Right? It's Sega systems or PlayStation, whatever they're called, right?
Yeah.
Grown men. How do I always say this to my sons. I can never motivate you. It has to come from within. That drive. My son LJ has it like me. Man, if he loses at anything, it's sideways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I think it's all healthy. I'm like, yo, you got to calm down. You got to learn to control it. It's very healthy once he learns to control it. Make sense?
Yes.
But that's an inner drive that either you have or you don't. I mean, I can't help you if you want to go play Sega at 30 years old or PlayStation, whatever it is. And, these guys want to watch all these shows. I do think weed's a big piece of it. I'm not saying weed's worse than alcohol or not, but I never smoked weed. But it seems like people that smoke weed during the day become lazier. I don't know. I mean, when you hang out with high achievers, you don't want to be around low achievers. I think that was the best thing Nick Saban ever said. I saw an interview. He's like, and it's so true. The reason why you have friction, Jim, or Steve Jobs had friction, and Elon Musk and a guy like me has friction with people, and I'm sure other high achievers have friction with people, not with with low achievers, is you can't understand it. You can't comprehend why you would settle for less when this is the greatest country in the world and you can go take whatever you want. You don't even have to ask for it. You can go take it in this country. It's that easy. Like I say this all the time. I don't even got to beat you at anything. You'll beat yourself because you're going to quit before me.
Absolutely. One great advantage of immigrants when they come to this country, they are usually coming from a place that is worse than here, and they're four times likely to become a millionaire or a multimillionaire than an American-born citizen. What does that say? We're born with a golden ticket in this country. We don't take advantage of it, but someone floating over in a bathtub from Cuba arrives in Miami, and they're more likely 4 times to become a millionaire than someone who graduates from high school or college here in the U.S. What's your take?
Simple as this. I said this to a girl one time when she broke up with me. One person's trash is another person's treasure.
Mm-hmm.
We get so used to it that what you see, like someone that lives in a $200,000-$300,000 house, they work 8 to 5, and that's all they're comfortable, right? And that's the worst thing you could ever become in life is comfortable. Like I truly believe that. Like, it's the worst thing. So if you become comfortable, it's just laziness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think most Americans are comfortable. I think most immigrants that come here aren't comfortable. They're coming on boats, back doors, doing whatever they have to, family struggle, and they see what's here. And they're like, oh my, like the first time I showed up to Council Rock and I saw the cars in high school, I'll never get Mike Lancelotti had this awesome car. I was in awe. I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. And I was like, I'm going to have that.
Yeah. So another reason why the immigrant, especially you take someone like a Cuban, and Cubans are hard workers and they often do very well. And someone brought this up to me, which makes sense. One reason why they do so well is because they work so hard to get the hell out, right? They got out. They got off the island. So if you're working that hard to get out, you're probably more likely as well to produce when you get to your new homeland. It's just a great story. When I get into an Uber, I talk to people who are driving, and they're often immigrants, and I love their stories. They're from all over the world. And I'm like, what's your story? They're like, well, I'm driving this car now today to help feed my family. But my brother and I just bought a piece of property, and we're going to buy another one. And this guy's like 26 years old, and I know by the time he's 36, he's going to be a multimillionaire. It's incredible. Isn't that wild?
So they have no ego. People look thinking like Ubers. Like I was telling people I used to be a cashier at Home Depot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was laughing at me. And I'm thinking to myself, look at me now. Like I would go back, like lifetime snapshots. I used to be a bouncer for years. Most people don't know that. Like I worked in the nightclub business for years. I owned bars and restaurants. I used to be a dishwasher for years. I worked at KFC. Like, you name it. Like, the worst job I ever had was a screen printing job I had, cleaning screen printing. If you only ever did, like back in the day, screen printing.
Yeah.
I used to take the screens. I'd be in a room that literally was probably 6x6. And I literally would sit there with a power gun and literally just clean the screens for 8 hours a day. And I think I was getting paid like $4 an hour, $3 an hour. But like, I had no ego. Some money was better than no money. And I think people let their entitlement and egos and what others think of what they do. I meet people like, I don't have a business card. Obviously, I don't ever carry business cards, but I have no title on my email signature. I have no title anywhere. But I meet people and they hand me their card. It says CEO, president. I'm like, how many people work for you? Like, oh, it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, what are we doing here?
Yeah. So you said something that's really interesting. When someone who is what you consider entitled, if you will, and they lose their job, so let's say it's someone who has a white-collar job, they're a vice president of a company, the economy changes, they lose their job, they won't take another job that they feel is beneath them. They won't flip burgers. They will not wash cars. They will not clean houses. They won't do any of that. They're going to sit at home, send out their resume, and try to get that $250,000 job that they used to have. I find that very interesting because they obviously do have an ego, don't they?
Well, I think it's the ego. I also think people, once you go backwards, it's hard to go forward again, right? Like, listen, I was vice president for AT&T. I ran the whole country. I had no ego. I moved in when I left. I moved in with my sister, who I love, who's my best friend. But think about this. I was 33 at the time, single guy. I moved into my sister, who's gay, Jolene, as you know, with her wife, CJ, who's one of my best friends, and their son, Landon. I mean, you want to talk about having to eat your pride, because I wanted to start a company, and eat your ego. What girl wanted to date me?
Yeah.
Where do you live? Where do you live? Oh, I live with my sister and her wife and their kid.
Yeah, when you say it like that, that's something that probably didn't impress a lot of women. But then again, you're Lance, right? So hopefully just your presence was enough to sway them, honestly, because you are a confident guy. Were you confident?
I was confident then. I didn't care. There's no shame to my game. Like, I knew what the end result was going to be. I knew I was going to win. I knew if I paid my due, I would get my due.
Yeah.
And most people just aren't willing to sacrifice for what they want. They're worried what everyone else thinks.
Interesting sacrifice. Let's talk a little bit about that, because a lot of people don't want to give up something today for tomorrow. And I tell people my story all the time. I'm from the corporate world. I was one of these privileged people. I'll be honest. I went to high school. My last year, I went to a private all-boys school. We had to wear a tie and a jacket and specific shoes and trousers, if you will. And then I went to a private university, studied 4 years, graduated with a degree in marketing and a minor in communication. So I was in the corporate world, in the beginning, but I decided that I didn't like it there and I was going to do something different. And I threw all that out the window to become an entrepreneur. And it's just one of those things. You just have to be tough and do it. But most people aren't comfortable, Lance. They're just not comfortable giving up that 6-figure income job with the cul-de-sac home. I had a pool, a tennis court, beautiful wife. My wife was pregnant with our daughter. I came home and told her, while she's holding my 2-year-old son, pregnant with my daughter, I said, I want to quit my job cold turkey and do something different. When I tell people this story, they're like, first of all, you're courageous to tell a pregnant woman that you want to quit your job. And number two, how are you so brave? And I'm like, brave? I saw my father and many other people in the early 50s be thrown out of the corporate world. That's crazy to stay in it. I laid myself off at 36. I got the hell out. People just don't want to give up. And I'll tell you what happens when they do get thrown out. Then all of a sudden they decide they want to start a business at 50 or 55. That's not necessarily the best thing, because you've been on the teat of the corporation for all those years. You're not really in condition to do it. And you just need to go out and do it and be tough.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it's a different mindset from being the vice president of AT&T, managing budgets, it's not even real money, right? Because you're not ever touching the money, even though you're dealing with the CFO.
It's not yours.
It's not yours. As soon as you open your own business and, you got to pay legal bills, you got to pay payroll, you get paid last.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate. My wife met me when probably 14 years ago, and I was already starting out. So she never knew me to work for anyone. I've always worked for myself. So that was never an issue. I could listen. I meet people all the time, though. Obviously, you know what I do. I take companies, I grow them, and I sell them, right? So I mean, I get people begging me to partner all the time, sliding in my DMs, and then when I tell them how it goes, they go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! I make more than that right now." You do, but you're not going to get that big check, right, for 10, 20, 30 million that you want if you keep doing what you're doing right now. I can't do. Okay, no problem.
Yep.
I got the playbook. I've done it now multiple times, right? But if you're not willing to follow the playbook, why would I bring you in as my partner, right? It's kind of stupid. I can't get the same end result without running the playbook, right? When you draft someone in the NFL and you say, hey, listen, you're going to be our receiver, and the guy goes, you know what? Nah, I think I want to be a running back. Well, we're probably not going to draft you then.
Yeah. It's, it's amazing. People don't want to give up that 3 to 5 years, even if it's 10 years, right? It all depends.
For 36 months is all you need to change your life.
Yeah.
Stay focused for 24 months and sacrifice. You'll change your life. You probably could do it even in a year.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you stay focused.
Yes.
And I'm not saying work 15 hours a day. Get up a little bit earlier. Stay focused. Stay on task. Have your checklist right here. Always on task, right? Make sure you're, listen, I say this all the time. Be productive, not busy.
Absolutely. And people like to be busy because they'll feel good about checking off the easy stuff off their to-do list. And I will say, to an extent, all right, there should be a couple of, gimmies here so you can get, momentum, because we all like to win. And if we win, we can win more. But you really have to get the difficult things done. And everyone is 24 hours in the day. We hear this all the time. How is it that some people are so much more successful in their personal and business lives? And it's because they take action, and they also are efficient and use leverage. Can you talk a little bit about leverage? Because you use a lot of leverage.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Rizzo and my leadership team say all the time, I don't own any task. In my companies, I don't own any task. Like, I own all these companies. They're all thriving. They're all growing. And I don't own any task. I sit in the leadership meetings. I take notes. I have a checklist of like just things I follow up on. But like, there's no rock I hold in my companies. I'm not even the CEO of my companies. Think about that. Like, I'm just a pure leadership person. And I think when you leverage your relationships, obviously I'm good friends with Tom. I'm good friends with, me and Ishmael are starting to become more and more friends. So we bring Data Cubit. Like, Tom Howard's my business partner. Obviously, you know that. I think when you leverage relationships, you're going to be a lot more successful. I always say this. The speed of one person can only go so fast. The speed of 2 to 3 to multiple people, you're going to go a lot faster. And I'd rather win and go a lot faster than sit there and grind it out. I mean, I wish I'd have known that 15 years ago, because one SEO would have been 3 times the size before I sold it.
Yeah, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Yeah, but now you know, and now you can help others, right?
Correct. And you leverage, and I leverage relationships with all the private equity people I know. I think when you understand relationships and how to use them the right way, and you give a lot, you get a lot back. It's the problem is most people just want to take instead of without giving. And I just truly believe, people say, Lance, why do you give so much? You want to give people the playbook. You want to give people your service Titan accounts. Because the more I keep giving, the more my life just keeps getting blessed. And I'm not here to talk about religion, but I believe in God heavily, right? Like, I'm a Catholic. I believe the more good I put out, the more good comes back.
It's a law. There's all these little simple laws, and if you just follow 3 to 5 of them, it just makes life easier and things compound. So one law is who do you spend most of your time with? Who are the 6 people that you're closest to or spend a lot of time with? Is it someone who is on welfare, or is it a multimillionaire? Is it, someone who's always losing or someone who's always winning? And just by changing your environment, Lance, and you know this, just by hanging out with successful people, you can't help but be drawn into it. Now, if you hang out with Elon Musk and Bill Gates and they're billionaires and you have nothing, you may not become a billionaire, but you're more likely to become a freaking millionaire because they're going to draw you in, right? It's like a magnet.
Well, people wind up doing business with the people they know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just, I don't go out. I mean, you know that I don't go to bars anymore. Like someone asked me the other day, like, "Hey, listen, let's go to this bar." I said, "I'm gonna grab my wife." Then they're like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm gonna grab my wife." They go, and they're like, "Well, I just think of me and you." I like, "No, I don't do that." Like, I'm like, just not gonna do that. Like, this is not my personality anymore. I'm past that. But he was so taken back because that's what he wanted to do. Business is the same thing. Who you hang out with, you know, hey, I got a call rail problem. I got a service titan problem. I got a marketing problem. Whatever it may be, you're going to get help through those relationships. I just think the power of relationships, but you can see, like, I didn't invent anything. I toured all these shops, monkey see, monkey do. I just come implement what I see and it works.
Yeah. Your network is your net worth, not just financially, just your worth as a human. Let's talk about you in the contractor world. It's not where you started, but you've now invested in and you own home service companies. Talk a little bit about how you got into that and why you love that space so much, Lance.
So, I love digital marketing, but what I realized was I was making a great living, but I wasn't getting these checks for 15, 20 million, $30 million. And that's not a lot of money to some people, but when you keep rinsing and repeating it, I've done it now multiple times, and I own companies that I want to do it again with more, my net worth in 2-year periods of time in home services tripled.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And from selling these companies. And I looked at it that way. And I was like, wow, and plus a lot of good people in home services. They work together. I think you're doing an incredible job taking care of a homeowner. If you take care of them the right way, it's an honorable thing. And my partner in doing probably 3 years ago, he wasn't my partner. He was my account at One SEO, called me up, said, "I want you to be my partner." I was like, "No." Julian's like, "You're going to do it." We took that company from 2 to 12 to 18 to they're going to do about $30 million this year. And I sold it, right? And I saw how much I sold it for, right? Travis Free was in Phoenix. I was the keynote at Home Freedom. And Travis like, I just sold for, 8 figures, what it was. And I was like, what? I was like, my company down in North Carolina is about the same after I'm done with it this year. And I just went and I sold it myself. I didn't even use a broker. And I went and sold it myself. I called up Geiger, called up Apex, and I called up Ken Goodrich and started going through the process. And Ken said, "Are you happy with the number from Apex?" I was like, "I am." He's like, "Do you believe they'll close?" I was like, "I am." He's like, "Then take the deal." And that was it.
Yeah.
And then I sold Cherry Roofing to Vertex. So now I sold One SEO to Sky Harbor. It's just been a natural, I kind of fell into it. Like, I've never sold roofing. I never sold HVAC. I've never fixed this stuff. It's just never done any of it. But to me, it comes down to, you can see right here, everything's P&Ls. That's all it is. And I go through P&Ls and we talk about culture and leadership and metrics and KPIs. And I'm a numbers guy. I'm very numbers driven. So I'm not the typical contractor, if you want to use that word. I'm more of a guy that came in. I like the contracting space. I like home services. I love technology. I own technology companies too. I own Shock IT. I love Service Titan so much. I went and bought a Service Titan consulting company because, no offense to Service Titan, their customer service can struggle at times, right? Just because they're a big scaling corporation. No different than dealing with US Airways or American Airlines. But you can't allow your business not to scale as fast as you want because you have to be in there. So that's why all these Titan consulting companies do so well. And the people that use them, their companies grow that much faster.
You're not a contractor, but you're in the space. What would you tell the people who are watching and listening to this, Lance, who are in that space, who want to grow a company like you've grown yours, Tommy Mello has, and so forth, ones who really want to build an outstanding first-class home service company that they could trade for a cash out one day?
Go visit shops. People come to my shops all the time. People visit Tommy's. I mean, people visit Tom Howard's shop. You have the most opening people in this space. They'll bring you into their shop. They'll show you the playbook. They'll show you exactly what they do. The problem is most people just won't take action, Jim. I mean, the guys, like, I've been doing this 20 years. I don't understand how you do it, Lance. I'm like, because I just take action. We just do it.
You just do it.
Just do it.
You just do it. But in all fairness, you are a businessman before you're a contractor. You aren't a contractor. I mean, you do not turn wrenches. You are a numbers guy. You're a businessman. So would it be fair to say just because you're a good technician and maybe a decent small business owner, you may not be one to scale a business to 20, 30, 40, $50 million?
Then I'd go find a partner that could do it with me right away.
Yeah.
Like you got to know, I don't fix my own roof,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't know how to fix it, right? I don't install windows. So I hire those people. But once again, if my goal is to win and to scale, you got to have the right people around you. Like you just do. Like you got to have people you trust, you care about. Like I'm going away after this podcast and I won't talk to my leadership team all weekend because they know I'm with my kids.
Yeah.
They won't bother me. They won't. And my companies are all going to move on and they'll all respect me because they know I love them. They love them. And it's an important weekend for me and my family, right? And it's a fun weekend. So they'll leave us alone.
What's your biggest regret in your life?
I treated a lot of people bad when I was younger. I let the power of being the vice president of AT&T get to my head. I treated people bad. One SEO, same thing. I lost my cool on people. Now that I'm a father, I'm 50. Yelling and screaming at people isn't going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
I look back on it, and before I had children, like when someone got pregnant, and I'd be like, well, why aren't they back to work the next week, right?
Uh-huh.
I had to empathy. And then I see what my sister did. My sister's an animal. She came back to work the next week. And I was like, nah, man, why don't you take time? Because I'm a father now, right? And I missed my regret is not spending LJ's earlier years with him, right? So for me, I wish I'd had more understanding of, just a lot of human connection that I didn't have. Where now I think that's the biggest thing I do have. I truly love and care about the people I'm with every day in my organization. They come first without a doubt. I used to come first, and it's my biggest regret.
Sometimes we can't, though, look back and say, I wish I were different, because we wouldn't be where we are today if we weren't that individual. You're 50 years old. This comes with what I call seasoning, and that's a nice word for saying getting old. So as we become seasoned, right? I find this especially true of men. We've learned a lot, but we also soften up a little bit in the right ways, and we become a little more human. A 20, 30, 40-year-old man is the most aggressive man he's probably going to be. The guy in his 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s for sure, they're like, hey, whatever, life's good.
Well, that's exactly it. I'm still aggressive. I mean, I know I'm a hard man. I just am. It's who I am. I'm a winner. I want to win. Winning's everything to me. I don't live for money. I live to win competition. But my understanding, the failures, the losing, it's all made me better. And I think I have nothing to prove anymore. Makes sense. I think you're right. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I wanted to prove everything now. I'm happy sitting outside watching my sons just throw a football around and having a bourbon, man.
Yep.
It's
And it's actually a blessing because it does come with time. Speaking of wins, what is your single most biggest win in your personal and or business life?
Personal, my family. There's not even a distant second. My family, my kids, my wife. It's the only thing that matters to me, my personal life. In business, truthfully, having the best leadership team, having Jolynn, having Scott McCasney, having Bill Roselle, having just the part, Mike Gold. I'm so blessed with so many great people around me that make me look great. And they really, people are like, oh man, you're so successful, Lance. I'm like, if you knew the people that were pushing from behind and doing it all, they're the ones. That's my biggest win, having great people that I truly trust and love.
Yeah, great answers. The 50-year-old Lance going back in time to meet the 20-year-old Lance. What would you today, as the 50-year-old man, tell the 20-year-old boy? Because that's pretty much what we were at 20, right? We thought we were a man, but we were a boy. 30 years there, what would you tell yourself today going back in time?
Your family's not your family because they're born your family. I'd definitely say that, because I think a lot of your inner circle and problems come from people that oh, well, it's family, right? I don't believe that. I believe you're born family and it takes work to stay family. You have to love each other, care for each other, protect each other, those type of things. I would tell that 20-year-old boy, you have nothing to prove. Don't worry about, I used to care about people think. I had low self-esteem.
Yeah.
And I would let them know, hey man, it's going to be okay. I always had a big heart. I was always a good man. but I did a lot of bad things because, you know, once again, when you're around negative people and bad influences, you become those things. And and when you care about what people think, they start to morph the version of you that you become. And that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. That's what I'd go back and tell that person and say, you know, and I would say that to any kid. I think people are insecure when they're 20. I think they're scared. I think they're nervous, you know, and it brings out some bad traits in people. I think, like you said, I'm 50. It's just a different, I don't care what people think of me. I really don't. There's not even an ounce. Do I want people to think I'm a good man, good father? Yes. Outside of that. But if you don't think I'm not, then go pound pain. You don't have to be around me. I don't have to be around you. Life's too short.
Yeah. I remember when that turned for me because, like you, I worried too much what other people thought. I was trying to prove something to people. And honestly, no one gives a crap about what you have or what you do. You think they do. So you drive up in your brand new Lambo, right? And you're showing off. People might be impressed for a couple of minutes, but they really don't care. And it's an ego play, usually, because a Lambo is really not a practical vehicle.
I look at it this way. I never look at another man's wife. And people say, why you have to? I'm like, no, because I'm not the one sleeping with her. That's his wife.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look what other people have. I look at what I have. And when you look at what your funeral is going to look like and the people that are really going to miss you, it's probably going to be your brother and sisters. It's going to be your kids for sure.
Sure.
And your wife will miss you, right? But your wife's going to move on most likely and find someone. At least I hope my wife would, right? I'd want her to go find someone to be happy, right? And so my life and my impact and my legacy is going to be my children. And that's all I worry about. And the brother I talk to and my sister and my wife, you know, and, you know, business is business. I love my business relationships. There's nothing I wouldn't do for anyone. But, you know, reality is they have families. They got to worry about themselves. And I have the abundance mindset in business of if I keep giving, it will keep coming back.
Your obituary is going to list your family before all your businesses. I guarantee it. We have to keep that in mind. Education is so important, you know, not just when you're a child and you graduate after 12 years of school, but also going forward. I do a lot of reading. They say readers are leaders. Do you do a lot of reading and or listening to books?
I listen to a lot of books. My favorite book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Changed My Life.
Oh, Robert Kiyosaki.
It's changed my life, that book. You know, I think Freakonomics is another good book. I think Winning by Jack Welch is another good book. I think, you know, Good to Last, Built to Great, those books, like Jim Klauck. You know, I do read books. I don't read as much as other people. I'm a student of business. So I listen, I watch. I'm not a big reader because I don't do well reading. You know, I was special ed K through 12, you know, never in a regular classroom. They told my mom I was mentally handicapped. I'd never make it. I was on like one of those little, you can't call them it no more, but they used to call them tart carts. Like that's how like negative it was. That little yellow bus. That's how terrible it is. I mean, and it had me on that every day when I did go to school, you know? So I don't have the same belief system that education's power. I believe educators are power. A lot of educators changed my life. Coach Sanko, Coach Bettison, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Ortman. I had these men in my life that changed my life for the better. I think as I got older and the things that interest me, like business, it's when I can go learn and see and talk and duplicate what I see. I'm probably never going to go read a book and implement from there. I'm actually going to go see it. I'm a visual learner. My kids go to private school. I'll be very transparent. People think I'm crazy because I don't think there's nothing wrong with education. I just don't think education is the end all be all to what your life should be. Right? Sometimes the smartest person in the room, if they don't have communication skills, they probably can't be successful. It could be someone with half that education of that person is very charismatic, very good communicator, makes people feel good about themselves, and highly motivated to be a winner is probably going to outperform the person that understands Thomas Jefferson or George Washington was our first president, whatever it may be. Makes sense? I say there's Jeopardy education and there's book smart education and there's real life application.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you know, the street smarts, the real life on the street is the most important education. We all need to learn how to read and write. So
Absolutely.
but Don't even get me going on the public school system and what we're learning, because it's the same stuff our parents and grandparents learned about history and geography, and some of that's important, but I think a lot of that can be something you do in your 50s, 60s, and 70s when you want to learn that. It doesn't necessarily help us with understanding relationships and finance and all the other things that we really need to deal with on a regular basis here in America. Let's talk a little bit about mentors, because I think it's important for a lot of people to have someone to help them, lead them, and guide them. Did you have mentors as a child?
I've been blessed. I'm the most blessed man.
Okay.
Like I am, as a child, I wouldn't call them mentors, but they're men I looked up to, right? They were Mr. Don, Mr. Ortman, Mr. Sanko, like Mr. Yates, just these, I've been blessed, right? Regan Mahoney, probably one of the biggest impacts of my life. He was wrestling coach at Glen Mills, where I was away at for 2 years. I had men that cared about me. I had men that wanted to see me and my brothers do well. Very fortunate, where most kids don't. Make sense? They don't. Just so happened to be, I wrestled and played sports with Mike Ortman, Seth Dunn, whose two fathers are probably two of the best men you'll ever meet, right? They're just good men. So I got to see what a good man looks like, where in my own home, I never got to see that. And then in the business world, oh my God. I had great Jeff Cartwright was my first mentor at advertising. Greg Sirianni, Danny Deal, vice president of AT&T, came and took my job. They brought him in above me. I almost wind up being a great mentor, making sure I made full officer when he left. Neil Salvage, who hired me. Bill Cormier, probably the biggest impact in my life mentor. I've been blessed. When you talk about, no one has success without people helping them and teaching them. And I just am the most blessed guy. I'm so grateful for the people in my life that help me.
I know you do the same thing with young people today. I've seen you do it. Talk a little bit about why that's important to you and how it helps those young people.
Because, like I said, I couldn't read and write in the 7th, 8th grade. I wasn't smart. They put me, they had me down dead to rights. And I don't want people feeling that way. If you don't know how to read a P&L, I'll teach you how to read a P&L. You've seen me walk in LA conferences and say, hey, let me see your P&L and for free. And, hey, let me know your marketing for free, because I want people to win. I want people to know they can do this. If I can do it, who's not the smartest person, I've willed myself here. I willed myself to become a multi-millionaire, right? Just on pure will.
Sure.
Then as I got older, probably the last 5 years, 6 years have been my most strategic in my life. By leveraging my relationships, learning, doing monkey see, monkey do. But I willed myself here. And I don't want people to have to will themselves. And skill gets you a lot further than will. Will is just literally the difference maker. I do believe that. If you can get skill with will, it's lights out for everyone. So if someone doesn't know something, I always try and help. I always try and get back to people. I can't get back to everyone always. And I feel bad because as I keep growing, the more people know you, the more people reach out. You know how it goes, Jim, and you just can't get back to everyone. It's not realistic, but I do try and help whenever I can.
Lance, what's your superpower? One thing that's like your superpower, the thing that someone would want to be able to attach themselves to because that's what you do so well.
I win. I'm a winner.
Oh. How? How is that your superpower?
It's just, I'm a winner. I'll figure it out. I'll go get the best people to put in place. I don't quit.
So it's So it's really grinding.
Yeah. We grind it with whatever it is that we have to do is going to get done. And we're going to win. I hate losing more than I like winning. So we're going to win. And I do believe my biggest superpower with that is I put the best people around me. I put people that are smarter than me around me all the time. I always say I'm the dumbest guy in the room.
That's not really true, but having that attitude helps because then you then move backward and you can look out at everyone and say, hey, look, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. So let's see what these guys have to say. It's an ego thing, not having one, putting your pride aside.
I don't even run the leadership meetings in my companies. Bill Rizal does and Joe Lynn.
Yeah.
I don't run one of them. I just sit there and listen and I'll comment when asked.
So speaking of that, we hear that we should listen much more than we talk. Apparently you do that. What are your thoughts?
I look at people's actions. I don't listen to the words.
Interesting. Give me an example.
You meet a 300-pound guy and he tells you to go to the gym every day. Well, why are you 300 pounds?
It better be pure muscle.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you know how many people tell me why I was rising and how to do things and why I should do it, and they weren't successful themselves.
Yeah.
So why would I listen? Like, I look at actions, right? Like, somebody could, you have people around you cheering for you and saying that they're cheering for you, but they're not, right?
Mhm.
So, like, you got to look at actions. I listen to words in meetings, and then, meaning, I've seen it a million times. Man, this guy's very polished, speaks well, but they take no action. They don't deliver on what they say. So, what good are you to me if you don't deliver?
Well, they're an empty suit, as they say, I guess, right? They look like they may know what they're talking about, but when you dissect it, there's just not a lot of foundation there. And we see that a lot, and that's why it's really good to follow and be near the real people, like you said, their actions. I would say most people just talk, right? Lip service, just a lot of talk out there.
Listen, I tell people this all the time. If you partner with me, I'm like the pizza man in a snowstorm. I'm going to deliver.
I like that one.
I say it all the time. Like, it's my mindset. I'm going to deliver. I'm going to win.
So with you, Lance, it's no BS. This is who I am. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm a serious, but maybe not too serious businessman. In other words, I'll talk to anyone and work with someone who wants to, grow, and I'll invest in things that are good. But, when I talk on stage like you do, Lance, you're just not going to give fluff. I mean, you tell the real story. Like, I've seen you on stage talk about your childhood, what you did earlier on this podcast. I'm assuming that's real stuff, right? That really happened.
Oh yeah. No one could deny it. I mean, I don't fluff things because I'm probably going to put together a mastermind group, and we just did one, right? Me and Victor Ancor. I showed people my P&Ls right there. I just pulled my own P&Ls out. They were like, so I pulled and they're looking at the numbers, and they're like, no one shows this stuff. Like, I am who I am, and no offense, if you don't like it, you don't have to be in the same room as me, right? And you probably don't like me because you're jealous, right? I mean, I never did nothing to you. I never hurt you. I never did nothing. I've always tried to help people, and I don't fluff. I think you learn more from your failures.
I agree. I wish more people were as authentic as you, because someone in your position really could be full of crap. There are a lot of them. Ones that have done well financially and built businesses who are still full of crap, and others who are that empty suit, if you will, where they talk about it. It's like the financial advisor who says, hey, would you give me $1 million of your dollars to invest? And you start asking questions to find out the guy only makes $60,000 a year himself. You're like, well, wait a second. Why am I giving you $1 million if you've never really helped people help you become a millionaire? I wouldn't do it. Would you?
No. So I actually was in a meeting about a year ago. And when I got in the roofing space, maybe a year and a half ago, and one of the distributors were questioning something, I literally just showed him my kid's account. And there was literally, a lot of money there, millions upon millions, not a few million, millions. I said, this is my kid's account. I said, like, what are we doing here? I said, you guys might want to take me more serious. I want to open up multiple roofing companies around the country. I want the best pricing now. You treat me I have the best pricing in the country in roofing.
Huh.
And I went in, and I'm delivering on what I said. Just like I told them, I am the pizza man in the snowstorm. I don't bluff. I never have to work again. So if I'm going to compete, it's to win.
Very clear cut, very straightforward. So if I were to ask people who've worked with you, they would say you're a non-BSer.
I think they would say he's harshly, brutally truthful.
Let's talk about that quickly. Being brutally honest and truthful. Some people don't want to hear it, so they sugarcoat things for people. What do you think about, maybe it's a team member, a partner in your business, a supplier? What do you think about just being brutally honest with them and say, this is how it is. I'm not happy. You suck. You got to change this or you're out.
What's wrong with that?
A lot of people.
I'm not screaming, cursing at you. I'm not demonizing.
No, you're just being honest. Yeah.
Just saying, hey, listen, this is not working. What is wrong with that? Like I put weight on, right? I looked at, my wife, there's nothing wrong with my wife saying, hey, Lance, when you put weight on. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. She wants the product to look good because she has to be with, right? I'm not being rude. Like,
no, I get it. And I'm the same way because I'll be honest with my wife. In other words, if she puts something on, I'll say, you might want to go back to the closet. And she says, thank you. So, and my wife's cool, right? So, she's good with that. A lot of men wouldn't even dream of that. They would let their wife go out, not acceptable in their mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, that's off the table. And I don't think there's wrong with setting that. I set expectations, right? So if you can't meet those, I told you I know what I am. I know I'm a hard man, right? Like I'm not, like you gotta want to be with me to be with me. Makes sense on my teams because I'm out to win. We're going to win. Winning is everything. And if you don't want to be that, you're not going to make it with me.
You're really not different than an NFL coach that wants to win the Super Bowl, right? Same
I'm
thing.
assuming mindsets are probably very similar.
Yeah. Some of them could be real tough. Real tough. But, if you want to win the Super Bowl, it is what it is. And those guys never smile, by the way. Have you ever seen a coach smile? NFL coaches don't smile that much.
Jim, I think this is the truth. I think Tommy Mello's tough. You can't build things. Ishmael's tough. I'm not saying they're not charismatic. They're very charismatic men. I mean, You see me on stage. I'm charismatic. I can laugh. I can joke. I can, right? But there's a time for that. And there's a time where you just, hey, guys, we have a job to do. We have to deliver. And let's get it done. If you don't want to do it, this is not the place for you.
Yeah. And that's the way it needs to be. On that note, thank you so much, Lance. I appreciate you joining me today on the program.
Thank you, brother. Jim, thank you.
You're welcome.
Entrepreneurship, got that inspiration. Yeah, now I'm just doing it. Working on these projects, my ideas I'm pursuing. No matter what the problem, the solution, I'm proving it. Let's talk about it and open up the dialogue. Contractors telling their stories about how they got it started and how they keep it going. The passion fuels the mission. Now we blasted into orbit, we gone. That's where we grow from. Started with the vision, make the pitch and knock it out the park like home runs.